Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's a Ukrainian show on Pod TV. My name is Sasha Star, and our guests today are Dr. Jonathan Lockwood. Welcome to the show, Jonathan.
Thank you, Sasha. Glad to be here as always.
Great to have you. And our man in Kyiv, Ivan Kucherenko. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Sasha. Hello, Jonathan. I'm glad to be here.
Okay, so my first question is that Zelensky just made an announcement that Russia openly helps Iran to identify American targets, hit them, and at the same time, something has to be done about it. Yet there are no more peace talks between Russia and Ukraine with assistance of the United States. What's going on, Jonathan?
I think Russia is slowly being confronted with the fact that they are not going to get at the negotiating table what they are failing to get on the battlefield. They're setting it, and given the fact that they are busy reacting to the Ukrainian counteroffensive, that Ukraine now clearly has the strategic initiative, from my perspective.
Absolutely.
They have the strategic perspective. They are driving the Russians back slowly but surely, and increasingly showing that they're creating the preconditions for a further successful counteroffensives, not only on the Eastern Front in Ukraine, but I'm still holding out to wait that the signs are there for a successful Ukrainian counteroffensive to retake Crimea. So
in Crimea, there's nothing to take. There's nothing to take in Crimea. Everything is destroyed. All the targets, Russian targets in Crimea, they're gone. There's nothing. It's like a territory, no people, no army, no weapons, nothing. So Ukraine, if they want it, I think they can take Crimea next hour and a half if they really want it to. I don't know if Ukraine needs it right now. Now they have different targets, but Crimea defenseless completely. It's empty.
And that is also to Ukraine's benefit, because it also means that Russia cannot use it as a platform or a sanctuary or any kind of thing. They are helpless. So it is Crimea's value now to Ukraine would be as a highly symbolic political victory, a great propaganda victory that would further isolate Russia and further diminish Russia's credibility for demanding any kind of concessions. So right now they don't have the ability to it. In this case, the retaking of Crimea would be, shall we say, what we call the icing on the cake. It would be the crowning victory, which would put ever more political pressure on Russia to simply declare victory and go home.
Wonderful. Ivan, so Ukraine is on its course to kill 1,500 Russians a day. And they are going this course, and it's very successful strategy because the Russian army is being depleted and they don't have enough people to fill up those who are being killed. And those who are fulfilling those who are killed, they themselves getting killed. So, Ivan, where is a door out for Russians here? Just to leave it and run away?
Yeah, it's quite simple because you're totally right. Ukraine is getting more and more advanced in killing Russians on the battlefield. The head of Ukrainian unmanned forces, Madyar, calculated the price of killing one Russian soldier on a battlefield. It's like $800 per person, and it's much cheaper than Russia is paying to recruit, train them, and equip them. So this is becoming the war of economy. Actually, if the price of killing Russian soldiers in Ukraine is pretty much lower than Russia is paying for that soldier to train them, then the end is quite simple. I think
It's just business, nothing personal.
it's just business. Ukrainians calculated the amount which is required to kill all Russians. Let's estimate, let's presume it's like 140 million Russians. So in order to kill all Russians, considering the price of killing one Russian on the battlefield is like $800 by drone, actually, but it's the optimal way now, and the majority of Russian casualties on the battlefield currently are due to the drone attacks. So Ukraine needs like $130 billion.
The volume discount, Ivan. Volume discount.
Yeah. Probably it will be a volume discount.
Volume discount.
European Union is going to provide Ukraine with $90 billion. So the $40 billion, I think Ukrainians will be able to gather them. I think that some Middle Eastern countries from the Gulf region will gladly pay Ukraine for killing Russians, because they will not assist Iran in attacking their oil infrastructure. So it's a win-win actually for everyone.
It's very successful. Jonathan, just to say, very successful on using their anti-drone techniques and strategy in Gulf countries. They're very appreciative of that. And now they're saying that Americans defrauded them by selling them hundreds of Patriot systems for billions and trillions of dollars, which are helpless against drones. So they're saying, you're charging us billions of dollars for something that doesn't work against drones. What Ukrainians are doing for a fraction of that money, they were so successful.
What can we say? The Ukrainians are excellent entrepreneurs and inventors.
Absolutely.
They came up with something new.
Absolutely. I think that when this war hopefully will be over soon, I think the Gulf states, they will ask very politely Americans to pack their things and leave, please, with your patriots and with no patriots or whatever. Just get out of here. Get the hell out of here. We don't need you, because you couldn't protect us anyway. You could not protect us. So why do we need them? Why do we need to pay them billions, trillions of dollars? Where is the $17 trillion coming to United States to revive great U.S. manufacturing and creating millions of jobs or so on? Where is this $17 trillion? It's nowhere. Now, is there something else that's happening very interesting? Is that I mentioned that there are no more peace talks between Ukraine, Russia, and the United States. And I would like to know, before I'll say my opinion, I'd like to hear, Ivan, your opinion on that, and then Jonathan.
Actually, there were a recent meeting in United States of Ukrainian delegation and American representatives like Steve Witkoff, and that peace deal was discussing again, and there were rumors in Ukrainian media and some American media that 2 points actually on this peace agreement remains still undiscussable, because Ukraine and Russia have different opinion towards them. There are about the Donetsk region, that Ukrainian forces should leave the Donetsk region and give it as the prize to Russia, because they can't conquer it in a military way, so they want to get it in some kind of diplomatic way, the assistance of the United States. And another point is the Parisian nuclear plant, which is currently occupied by Russia. It's not functioning. Actually, Russia cannot launch it into power, and it makes a really threat to the possible nuclear catastrophe, second nuclear catastrophe in Ukraine after the Chernobyl. So what is actually frustrating in that point that United States is pressuring Ukraine, blackmailing Ukraine that Ukraine should give up the Donetsk region, otherwise United States will leave that peace talks process and probably will not assist Ukraine with the intelligence data, will not sell weapons. It's a clear blackmailing. But I think that the position of United States is quite simple. That just leave Donetsk region. It makes nothing for you. People here are talking Russian, speaking Russian. They want to be with Russia and all that Russian narratives, which they successfully integrated into American establishment. But I've got a video for today for us to watch what actually the Donetsk region is about for Ukraine, and why Ukraine cannot just give it up and give it to Russia as a price for their invasion. So let's watch this video right now.
Okay. Video, please.
Mark, please launch the video.
Wake him up. Wake him up. Wake up.
From afar, and just want Ukraine to give it up and sign that peace deal, well, it's time for an explainer. To understand why, you have to go back to 2014. Russian-backed fighters seized the 4 cities, Slavyansk, Kramatorsk, Druzhivka, and Konstantinivka. They tried to force a referendum on the population.
It's printed in black and white and has no special markings to prevent it from being duplicated, leaving open the possibility of massive vote fraud.
When Ukrainian forces finally took it back, these cities turned into the Eastern Fortress. Military headquarters, logistics routes, humanitarian hubs, everything ran through these cities. For Russia, capturing them opens a path toward bigger cities like Dnipro and Zaporizhzhia. For Ukraine, holding them prevents that from ever happening. There are the people living there.
I believe the stories people tell about living under occupation, and I don't want that.
They've already lived through Russian occupation once. They know exactly what it means if Russian forces return. So, by just handing it over, Ukraine would be handicapping itself in a future invasion scenario.
Well, the answer is quite simple. Russia doesn't need some particular regions of Ukraine, of Donetsk. It wants all Ukraine, and by getting those regions, it will be easier for them in the future to get all the Ukraine. It's like before the Second World War, when Sudet region was given to Hitler, and they made it Anschluss with Austria, actually, and without any reaction from the Western powers. And it showed Hitler that, okay, he can get even more. And that's how the Second World War started. The same situation, exactly the same situation is now in Ukraine with that Russian requirements. And it's very pity that American politicians, American president, his team cannot understand that. But the time is going closer to the midterm elections, and I think that the American people probably understand better the situation, and that President Trump actually is not completing his election promises the way he promised it. He wants to achieve them by not by putting more pressure on Russia, but by being friends with Russia and putting more pressure on Ukraine, which is not working actually.
Very quick question to you. If Ukraine now successfully holds on Russian offensive, and on top of that, they are attacking themselves, and they're killing a day 1,500 Russians. why Ukraine needs any peace talks whatsoever.
We've already discussed it before. Ukraine is successful not only in killing Russian soldiers, because it's not only a matter of killing soldiers. Unfortunately, Russia has a great mobilization resource. So there are a lot of people there, a lot of people who want to go on that war and kill Ukrainians, being paid
You think so?
the money which they will not ever earn in their life. And the second way to making Russia end this war is decreasing Russian economy potential by successful strikes on Russian oil refineries, on Russian seaports, on Russian shadow fleet tankers, which Ukraine is also successfully doing. But this part of the job is so successful because of intelligence data provided by the United States. And of course, Russia is not just sitting and waiting how Ukraine is destroying their oil infrastructure and killing their soldiers. They're attacking Ukraine every day. Like that night, there was a huge attack on Ukraine with a lot of cruise missiles, with a lot of ballistic missiles, with dozens of Shahed, much more than Iran is sending on American bases and on other countries of the Middle East region. And these attacks are happening like 1 or 2 days per week on regular basis. And that particular night, a lot of drones were shot down. Like I think 85% of drones were shot down. All cruise missiles were shot down, and it was a very successful ratio. But unfortunately, 0 ballistic missiles were shot down. Russia launched like 6 ballistic missiles that night, and 0 was shot down. The only system which is successful in shooting down the ballistic missiles and which Ukraine has are Patriot air defense systems, which actually produced and supplied by United States. And the missiles, intercepting missiles for Patriot systems are produced only by the United States. So without United States assisting Ukraine, not just giving those missiles. The United States is selling them to NATO, and NATO is giving those missiles to Ukraine. But without them, Ukraine, first of all, will not be able to defend ourselves against Russian ballistic missile attacks. And second, Ukraine will not be so successful in attacking Russian oil infrastructure and attacking their shadow fleet tankers and attacking their logistic supply chains, weapons producing facilities, and many more, because Ukraine doesn't have their own large network of satellites, doesn't have like those drones, like Reaper drones, which are flying over the Black Sea and gathering all the information. And the success of Ukrainian attacks over Crimea or Russian air defense systems in Crimea is because the United States is supplying Ukraine with intelligence data about the exact coordinates of all those objects in Crimea. Without them, Ukraine will not be so successful. And if United States will leave that peace process, will not make Ukraine accept the requirements of Russia to give the Donetsk region, then probably Ukraine will be left without any intelligence data and without any weapons, because United States will say, okay, we need those weapons in Iranian war, we need them on the Middle East to supply our partners, and we don't have any more Patriot intercepting missiles to sell to Ukraine. So Ukraine, it's a show for theater show for one visitor, actually, and this visitor is Donald Trump. Ukraine just cannot leave that peace process in order not to anger the Donald Trump and to keep United States as ally of Ukraine in these two vectors.
Ivan, it's not Ukraine who is leaving negotiating. It's US who is leaving negotiating table, and I'll tell you why. What's happened on Friday in Europe? Europeans came with a solution to provide Ukraine with $120 billion. They use Russian money as a collateral, so they will advance Ukraine a loan of $120 billion, which Ukrainians will have to repay only if Russians will not pay reparations money to Ukraine. If they will refuse to pay reparations money to Ukraine, then Europeans will use collateralized Russian money. They're about $250 billion or $300 billion. They will use that as a collateralized asset to repay this loan. So now that automatically put Europeans at the negotiating table, whether you want it or not. They are supplying weapons to Ukraine. They are supplying money to Ukraine. What else do we need? And you will say that, no, Europeans, we don't need you. No. You will not be able to do it. So Europeans now sitting at the table and, US, you want to be at the table. Okay, what are you offering? What are you coming to the table for? What do you want to? Oh, you want to grab this money and split it with Putin and use it as a, we will build something in Ukraine and we'll help and we'll do this and that. Finita la commedia, there is no more money to be split it between Trump and Putin, it's gone. So now why Trump would waste his time, especially now with the war with Iran and so on, to waste it on Russia, Ukraine and all that stuff? They can continue to sell their weapons to Europe because Europeans are paying money. So what's wrong with that? Here is okay. How many you need? 25,000 Patriots. You need 1,000 or 1,000 billions of rifles or okay, we'll supply. You just pay the money. But there is no place at negotiating table, and I think Trump doesn't want it. He doesn't need it. He wants to concentrate on something where they can win. He loves the winners. He wants to be a winner. He doesn't need the losers. In his opinion, both Ukraine loser and Russia is loser. He doesn't want to deal with losers. That's what Trump is all about, Jonathan. Is that correct?
Well, I would say that I would agree with you that President Trump wants to be associated with winning. And he's made that a recurring theme, both in domestic policy, economic policy, as well as any military operations. So in this case, President Trump he's figuring, okay, who's the bigger loser? That in this case, who's less of a loser? Well, Ukraine, by its actions, by its initiatives, and by its successful prosecution against the Russians, is making itself less and less of a loser in President Trump's eyes than Russia, because he certainly does not want to back a bigger loser. Because so by default, I would say by default, Ukraine is the winner in Trump's eyes compared to Russia. And
plus helping the Gulf states with the drones and so on. Yes,
you're catching on, because now Ukraine is indirectly helping the United States by providing drone interceptors and offering. We have the Ukrainians said we have excess drone interceptor production capacity. We can ramp up you are willing to pay us, we will produce more drone interceptors, which
And
are
provide expertise and experience and all
Oh,
that.
Ukraine has cards. Ukraine has something tangible to offer. They have things which are of value to the Persian Gulf states trying to defend against Iran, and indirectly that helps the United States by helping decrease Iran's capacity to successfully attack American bases or American personnel, especially if, as is being strongly hinted by various commentators now, we started talking about this first. If the Marines, with their imminent arrival within the Mediterranean Sea in the Persian Gulf, they have the capability of invading Karg Island, which would be invading and occupying it, that would automatically shut off 90% of Iran's oil production and transmission refining capability, and that would produce enormous pressure on Iran to seek a deal and make peace. So all of this, the fact that Ukraine is indirectly helping, indirect or directly helping the United States allies in the Persian Gulf, that is a positive thing. And in President Trump's eyes, that makes Ukraine a winner in his view. And so I would say he is not going to be so eager to abandon someone who is actually trying to help him in an indirect way, of course.
Yes, Jonathan, I agree with you. And I think that there will be a new configuration of peace talks, if any, between Ukraine and Russia with Europeans. And Europeans will, in my opinion, much more prone to protect Ukrainian interests than United States, because that's where now Europeans heavily invest. That's where their interests right. And something else, what I think a big difference of Europeans and American approach to that is that Europeans see Ukraine as a backbone of their security. Without Ukraine, Europe has no security whatsoever. They have no armies, they have no weapons, nothing, real nothing. With Ukraine, they have a very, very good backbone to defend Ukraine and in turn themselves. Americans, they have, or at least those who represent America. Let's talk about it. Kushner, all this Trump's family interests and so on, and they have vast economic interests and so on. So this is very different from Europeans. Okay? So let's see how that will develop in the near future. In the meantime, I would like to thank you both for today's program, and I hope to see you again on Friday, because there are so many things that are going every day that you have to spend almost like one day in the news, and then 23 hours you have to follow up what's happened.
Exactly.
Yeah?
Don't blink, or you're going to miss something important.
Yeah. Well, Slava Ukraini, and
God bless
all the
America.
best. All the best.
Heroes Slava. Thank
Yes,
you.
and we'll see you Friday, same place, same time. Hopefully, Ivan, you will be available with another movie. And
There we go.
yeah, thank you and goodbye. All. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.